President Donald Trump upped the ante in the trade disputes with several parties, including China, the EU, and NAFTA countries. Trump traveled to Duluth, Minnesota this week and spoke on current events, including trade.
But I want to say, and that we have to do that because it has to be balanced, it has to be fair. It wasn't fair.
Last week, Trump moved ahead with plans for 25% tariffs on $50 billion in Chinese goods in response to Beijing's forced transfer of U.S. technology and alleged intellectual property theft. All told, the scope and tariffs issued would be the equivalent to 90% of the goods that China shipped to the U.S. last year.
Here are surging exports from China.
Yukon Huang, a fellow with the Carnegie Asia Program, says the row between the U.S. and China is built on false assumptions, which could lead to policies damaging to both countries.
It began with the view that trade deficits are an issue, and they're not. It began with the concern that there's too much American investment in China, when actually it's the reverse, it's too little. So part of the reason why you have this, what I call a trade and technology war, is that both sides actually see the problem from a different angle.
The tariff actions taken by the president are necessary to revive America's essential steel and aluminum industries. They have been harmed by imports to the point that allowing imports to continue unchecked threatens to impair our national security.
The president's Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, appeared in front of the Senate's Finance Committee. A bipartisan group of members gave the Commerce Secretary an earful on the impact of the tariff talks.
Mr. Secretary, as you consider these tariffs, know that you are taxing American families, you are putting American jobs at risk, and you are destroying markets, both foreign and domestic, for American businesses of all types, sorts, and sizes.
The administration's trade moves seem more like knee-jerk impulses than any kind of carefully thought-out strategy. Its most obvious accomplishment on trade so far is sowing a lot of chaos that has united allies in China against us.
One of the first counters made by China was aimed at U.S. agricultural products, including pork and soybeans. The EU announced a 25% tariff on imports of U.S. corn over import duties placed on steel and aluminum from the EU. The EU published its full list of planned tariffs on U.S. goods near the end of the week that ranged from motorcycles to bourbon. Iowa farmer and Senator Charles Grassley says on 3 occasions he went to the White House to warn the president about this tactic.
I'm not going to tell the farmer that he should have faith that this is going to work out okay. I'm very nervous about it myself. Farmers are nervous about his approach. Now, if his approach is successful, in the end, we'll be better off. But if he's not successful, you're seeing the results of it already.
China is the largest importer of dairy products in the world market. A 25% tariff has been proposed on a wide array of U.S. dairy products. Former USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack, now with the U.S. Dairy Export Council, says this back and forth is heavily impacting the 41,000 American dairy producers.
They need to basically watch the discussions or lack of discussions that take place between the U.S. and China, for example. They need to pay attention to whether or not this is escalating or whether or not there's a genuine effort to de-escalate. I think the administration is making the assumption that these tariffs will hurt China more than they will hurt us because of the size of the deficit. But I think China understands that they can play the long game. They're a much more patient country.
For Market to Market, I'm Paul Yeager.